So my name is Lisa Stuart and I am the Coranderrk Bushland Ranger who works here at the Coranderrk Bushland. I've been with Zoos Victoria and here at the Sanctuary for just over 7.5 years now. The Coranderrk Bushland is 140 hectares of native remnant bushland that is found on the valley floor of the Yarra Valley. So it's really special because it's one of the few areas left on the valley floor that still has our native bushland that's intact. So it's a really nice area to work in. Do we want to wait for the kookaburra to finish? I feel like I'm competing. Yeah, okay guys, sort it out, I'm talking. As a park ranger, my job really varies from day to day. The only set task I have in this role that I do every day is a morning fence check. And then after that, it all depends on the projects that I'm working on, which really vary from season to season, winter to spring, and then also from year to year and how far we've progressed some of our projects, which can last for 5 to 10 years. So our whole property, the Coranderrk Bushland as well as the Healesville Sanctuary, is surrounded by a 6.1 kilometre predator-proof fence. The point of that fence is to try and keep introduced foxes and feral cats out of the property so that we can protect our wildlife from those introduced predators that they haven't evolved with. So most of the time, our breach in the fence can be caused by a fallen tree. That can be where the whole tree's come down across the fence and squashed it flat. Or sometimes it can just be a branch that falls from a tree and then props itself up on the fence on the outside, and it forms a little bridge that the cats can then use to climb up and then jump over the top of the fence. But also we have quite a few resident wombats that live on site, and sometimes they decide that they want to get out and they will dig a hole underneath the fence, and then quite often a fox will use that to get in and out. I have to think of absolutely everything that one of those animals might decide to do, whether it's tunneling underneath or climbing over the top. So I have to try and think like a fox or think like a cat and then work out how to prevent them from getting in. We've got a wide range of native wildlife that live out here, which some are threatened species, so it's really exciting that we can provide them with a safe patch of habitat. So at the moment we have a resident pair of wedge-tailed eagles, which we'll often see flying around throughout the day. We also have powerful owls, square-tailed kites that nest here regularly. And they're just the raptors. We also have yellow-bellied gliders, crest gliders, we have lots of ringtail and brushtail possums, we have wombats, echidnas, eastern grey kangaroos, swamp wallabies, and then a whole suite, there's a couple of hundred different bird species, as well as frogs and lizards. We even have lace monitors that live here as well, who are listed as endangered in Victoria. So it's really exciting. You never know quite what you might find when you're out here. So much of ecosystem restoration is about trying to understand the current state of the ecosystem that you're working in, and then trying to work out the best way that you can try and restore ecosystem processes so that you've got happy, healthy, reproductive plants, and then also really happy, healthy, diverse wildlife. There's a nice spot. And what we have here is evidence of one of the projects that I've spent the last 7 years on. We have this tree here is called Yarra Burgan, or Kunzia leptospermoides. which I call Kunzia. It is a native plant that is supposed to be here in this area, and we are supposed to have this plant here in the Coranderrk, but it's the sort of plant that when the ecosystem is out of balance, it can get out of control and it basically becomes a weed. So what we're looking at here is an area where I should have some beautiful grassy forest. It should have a really healthy eucalypt canopy, a few native shrubs dispersed here and there, and then a really healthy, diverse ground story vegetation. Because we've changed so much of the plant diversity, that has a really big impact on the leaf litter and our insect populations. And so it means that our habitat for our wildlife that's out here has become really degraded. So one of the things that I have to do is work out how to manage all of this in the most sensitive way for the ecosystem. Out of the 140 hectares of bushland that we've got out here, 60 hectares of that is covered by the Kunzia. So I have 60 hectares of this plant that I need to try and remove and to be able to try and restore the plant diversity. I've gotten halfway through the Kunzia management and I finally feel like I've come up with a process that we can implement over the next few years and actually get a really good handle on this issue. So yeah, I do have a camera network that's set up across the reserve to try and monitor for any sort of pest animal incursions, but also just to see what the wildlife are getting up to out there. Some interesting things that I've had. We've had some of the keepers find my cameras and they prank them, and I get all sorts of interesting things happen. But also interesting things like some of the antics that the wildlife get up to. We did have a deer in here, a sambar deer in the property last year, and one of his things was to collect vegetation all in his antlers, and that was a reproductive breeding thing that he thought he was making himself more attractive by walking around with this giant grass tussock in his antlers, which was pretty funny to see. So there is lots of different things that we see the animals get up to, which is lots of fun. The discovery of the broadtooth rat here in the Coranderrk, we didn't have any historical records of it being here. So while we imagined that it was most likely here 100, 200 years ago, we weren't sure how recently they had been here. This is our first official broadtooth rat in the Coranderrk Bushland. Broadtooth rat. And it's one of the things that I've said ever since I started working here, that I'd love to reintroduce them to the reserve. And then lo and behold, we found them actually already living here. And to have a threatened species that we've already been protecting without even realising it, living here and flourishing, is so exciting, and it really validates the work that I'm doing into this overall conservation restoration that I'm doing, and provides challenges but also so much opportunity for further work in that field as well. I think just the sheer variety of the work that I get to do, and constantly every week, every season there's a new challenge, and every time I fix one challenge there are 3 more that I usually have to then go and work out what I'm going to do. So the constant engagement that I get in my job every day is really interesting. The Coranderrk Bushland is really close to my heart because I've spent so many years working out here. It's a really special place. As you can see with the creek line, it is such a peaceful area to work in. And I think a lot of people find a spiritual connection out here as well. So to be able to stand in the middle of the reserve and feel like I'm the only person here and there's all this wildlife around me, lots of beautiful lush plants, it's a really special place.